I'm chatting to Beverly Hames of Fox&Fawn. We're in one of the 2 Fox&Fawn Brooklyn stores. We're in Greenpoint at the moment, and I had a great time last weekend buying this entire outfit in the one in Bushwick, which is a relatively new one, but we'll have a chat about that. So I think one of the things I'm really interested in about this store is the fact that there's loads of vintage in Manhattan and in Brooklyn. There's lots of consignment stores in both as well, but yours is somewhere in the middle. So how do you classify it, and tell us a little bit about it?
We always wanted to keep it more of a boutique feel, so we can have a more edited selection, so we never have to buy in things to fill our racks upon racks upon racks. And then also a lot of the consignment stores focus strictly on designer or strictly on streetwear, and we try to have a broader focus and include a lot of vintage in there. And being that we're a buy-sell trade, we're able to have a lot lower of a price point than some of the vintage stores in Manhattan, because we're not trekking out, we're not going, on road trips across the Midwest buying vintage as we go, we're not going to rag mills, we're not buying wholesale, we're buying directly from customers. So our markup is built into our buying structure. People come in with items, we don't do appointments, they just walk in, and we buy every day, and generally we buy periodically all day, every day. And we'll go through the items, sort them, and anything we're able to take to sell in our store we'll give a price to. And then we offer 35% of that retail amount in cash, or 55% in store credit, or if people want to shop around, they find 2 shirts and then still want some cash in hand, we can split it up and do a combo.
Oh, very good. That's why they're leaving with this full bags as they were coming in with in the first place. I think that's really great. But also the fact that you are focused on vintage, because I was saying to you that I'd been in this store earlier this year and I didn't know it was buy-sell store, I just thought it was vintage, because as far as I could see, there was a great range of vintage and lots of quite old vintage as well. So what is it about vintage that was your specific niche?
When I was a 13-year-old girl in the Midwest, I did not have a lot of spending money, but I started getting into clothes and fashion. It was the 90s, so it was the grunge period. So I started shopping at thrift stores, Salvation Army, buying striped grandpa sweaters to look like Kurt Cobain, and then I started hanging out at this vintage store, and I think I just hung out there so much.
Yeah.
I would buy, my manic panic hair dye there and crazy velvet skirts, because I was very into being goth as well. And I hung out there so much that they just sort of hired me.
Good.
For one day a week on Sundays. It was 5 hours a week. It was my first job, and ever since then I was hooked. Just the quality of vintage clothing, the construction, just the range of options, and where I was from, pricing, which in New York is not much cheaper than buying contemporary, but just the sort of wealth of styles, and you don't have to be so reliant on trends, you don't have to be as reliant on one, buyer's sort of idea of what women should be wearing right now, or men. So I liked the options.
Yeah.
It's just, you go into a vintage store, you have 10 decades worth of clothing you can buy. You go into, Urban Outfitters, you have one sort of perspective, one sort of mindset, and everything is made so cheaply.